take you on a journey to Latin America, but to a part of Latin America that not many people get to. So I'm going to stretch your imagination immediately. I want you to see if you can work out where we're going. So we're going all the way around the other side of the world to the largest city in the Western Hemisphere. And this is a city with 21 million people. Imagine that. That's the size of Australia, the population of Australia, all in one city. 16 million of those people live on below $1 a day. So this is a very poor city. They have a huge problem with overpopulation. They have a huge problem with pollution. Can anyone guess where we are? We're in Mexico City, and I'm going to take you to a part of Mexico City that not many people travel to, and certainly very few tourists would ever see this part of the city. Right away from the centre of the city where all the tourist destinations are, there in the four corners of the city, there are 4 huge garbage dumps. They are massive. They go for kilometres squared, and they pile up in mountains 10 to 20 metres high. That's how much garbage there is that's created by this overpopulated city. But the most amazing thing you'll find is if you go and visit those garbage dumps, you'll find that there are people living on the garbage, in the middle of the garbage dumps. I don't know if you've ever seen this before or heard about it before, but my husband and I, who run this company together, we're both directors of the Consultancy, we try to balance our work with corporate groups, with humanitarian work, because we really want to get exposure to the range of human experiences. And the principles that we teach, we believe, can be applied anywhere in any situation. So we spent time doing some research on these garbage dumps. And when you go into them, you'll find that there's not just individual people living there, there's whole villages of people. So as you walk in, there's streets that are cleared. Now, obviously, these streets are not for cars. These people can't afford cars. But what they do have is they have carts that they collect all the rubbish in, cart around, and sell it. That's how they make their living. And as you walk down the streets, you'll notice that there are houses. And these houses are built out of discarded bits of tin and wood. Somebody else's rubbish has been made into somebody's home. And these houses have gardens. And these gardens are made out of bits of tin, bits of wood, old rubber tyres that have been cut up, old tins that have plants planted in them, a symbol of hope, a symbol of something, a positive future from nothing. And you can be invited inside one of those houses, and you'll see there are pictures in the wall. So again, somebody else's rubbish has been made into something beautiful. And these people are some of the most generous people you will ever meet. They'll offer you a bottle of Coca-Cola, a cake, when you know that that's their whole day's earnings. And they'll be willing to give it to you because they have such a generous spirit. And on these rubbish dumps, what was most amazing is there were whole families and there were children growing up in this environment. Now, many of us would feel that this is quite heartening, discouraging, but in a sense, it was quite encouraging to see how the children were dealing with it. Many of these children had to collect the rubbish, sell the rubbish to contribute to their family income. So it was a huge responsibility. But at the end of the day, they would play like any children anywhere around the world. And they would play with other children's bits of discarded toys. So they weren't taken down to the toy shop and given a brand new toy to play with. They had to make their own. And they were incredibly ingenious. So you could see them with old wheels pinned onto sticks. They'd push the wheels down the street. But I think one of the most inspiring images that I have from when I was on those garbage dumps in Mexico is of the children who had made kites out of old garbage bags and sticks. And I can picture it very clearly in my mind. that there were children on top of 10, 20 metres mountains of rubbish flying these kites or running down the streets, feeling positive, feeling happy, feeling enthusiastic. They'd made something from nothing, and they were able to enjoy life. They were able to make the most out of life. And I remember one particular boy who followed us around as we toured the garbage dump, and we interviewed him along with a whole lot of other children. And we said to him, Pablo, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know what he said? He said, I want to be a fireman. And here's us thinking, what? Where did you get that concept from? All he can see is garbage. All he knows is garbage and collecting garbage. But like any other child, he has dreams, he has hopes, he has beliefs. And that image, I think, reflects very nicely what these children had. They had optimism. They had an incredible optimism. And they had a second thing. They had a creative ability, a creativity that enabled them to try to reach their dreams, that kept them living positive lives. All right, contrast that with another situation. I'm bringing you back around to Asia, to this part of the world, and we're coming to Bali. Anyone been to Bali? Okay. I don't know if you've been to Bali recently, but there are a lot of very exclusive, luxurious villas in Bali now. And on the beach in Canggu, there is one particularly huge, luxurious 5-star villa that is about the size of a hotel, but it is just a villa. And we met there with a Hollywood A-list actor and his girlfriend. They had rented that villa for a month. So imagine renting a 5-star hotel for a month. They had their own private chef come and cook for them. They had their own personal tennis coach teach them how to play tennis. They had a yoga instructor every morning. They had a dance troupe of 30 people come and perform just for the two of them. These guys had everything. But in contrast to the kids on the rubbish dump, I felt these people were really impoverished in spirit, because this man had lost his family because of his fame, because of his fortune. He'd lost his family. He was without his kids. He was trying to surround himself with stimulation because he wanted to write a movie, but he was in a creative slump. His career was in a slump. He felt like he was going nowhere. And this is one of the most depressed people I have ever met in my life. He had lost that optimism, and he had lost that creativity, that creative ability to help himself to get out of that depressed slump and to help himself to reach his goals. Isn't that interesting? Think about it. People who've got nothing, and it's, you know, I sort of still feel emotional when I think about it. People who appear to have nothing, and yet they've got everything in spirit. People who have everything, and yet sometimes it's as though they have nothing. A strong story, but I think it's a powerful one to think about. Yes. The power of yes. 3 simple letters, one very powerful word. I will embrace life. I will embrace the positive side of life. I will do whatever I can do to make myself better, to improve my work environment, to improve my life. And together, we can say yes to our customers. Very, very powerful. I lived and worked in Asia for 13 years, and we built up a team of employees in Asia, and we had to learn quite fast that the Asian culture likes to say yes. So whenever I asked one of my staff, could you do this please? They would say, yes. Of course, Miss Jaya. And if I said, can you solve this problem? They would say, yes. But I had to realise that they wanted to say yes to please me. That's the culture. They want to please you. And inevitably, they had no idea what I was talking about, no idea what they wanted me to, what I wanted them to do. And they would go away and panic about it. And I would go, what happened? Why didn't it work? I had to teach them to be honest in their yes, not just to say yes, hopefully, or I hope something will happen eventually and I'll work it out. But I had to teach them how to be honest in their yes, still to be able to say yes, but also to be able to back that up with a bit of creative thinking. So my staff, over a period, it's been 17 years now that I've had some of these staff, have learnt how to solve problems and how to come to me with solutions. And that's a lot of what yes is about. It's this optimism, but it's got to be backed up with creative thinking. It's the creative thinking that's going to keep you matching that restless optimism, keep you working towards those goals. But creative thinking is an essential life skill. As I've said, it's the only way we can invent our future, we can create our future. It's an essential life skill. It's so important that people who are creative, so all of you who put your hands up can be proud of this, have better relationships, have better sex. Now, there's a couple of people enjoying that, yeah. That's me. They are more flexible in their thinking. They can solve problems better. They stay in their jobs longer because they're more willing to push through the challenges. They achieve more highly. People who think creatively do really well in life, and they're able to get through the ups and downs of life. It's an essential life skill. And in organisations today, it's an essential work skill. You can't survive, you can't beat the competition if you can't think creatively, if you can't get ahead of the pack, if you can't innovate, come up with new ideas faster. It's an essential skill. And the good news is that 85% of our creativity is learnt. So we're not born with it. You're not, some of us might have a bit more of an ability to think creatively, and we might be exposed to creative environments as we're growing up. But 85% of creativity is learnt. And it's really interesting to find out how the brain works when you're thinking creatively. When you're not thinking creatively, you tend to develop channels or neurons that become like highways. So all of your thoughts are travelling down the same paths, and those paths are growing bigger and bigger and stronger. Meanwhile, there's all these other neuron pathways that are being ignored, all these other possibilities and opportunities. And if you don't use those other channels, they atrophy. They actually physically die off. So you're left with one way of thinking, a one-way highway, your way. And that's something that keeps you inside the box. So it is important. But let's think about what happens when creative thinking is killed. I talked about pressure. When you're under constant stress, the brain cells in your brain actually die off. And there are neurons, as I said before, which can atrophy. And when corticosteroids are released, which are the steroids that are released under pressure, under stress, that actually affects the striatum, which is responsible for flexibility. So it makes us more rigid and makes us return back to our standard ways of doing things. It affects the hippocampus, and where cells should be replaced in the hippocampus for memory, they stop being replaced. And so we can't draw on those memories, which is important for creative thinking. And if you've heard of the expression fight or flight, our brains go into that sort of survival mode where we can't think creatively. So we need to think about how we're going to create for ourselves an environment that will enable us to relax, be in that blue zone. That's a safe environment, that's a comfortable environment. And how we can do that for other people. So we can counteract fear with courage. Be courageous. Don't be afraid to step out and do things differently. We can counteract it with independence. Don't be stuck in the pressure. Be independent. Work out how you're going to deal with your pressures. Manage your time better. Manage your energy better. Be in charge of the things that you do. Passion Enjoy what you do, love what you do, see the value in what you do. Don't become apathetic, it kills creative thinking. Flexibility, don't become narrow-minded. Be flexible, constantly open to new ideas and new ways of thinking. Even if you've done it before, still say, okay, maybe we can try that again. Maybe we can try it a different way. And positivity, that restless optimism. Be determined to strive harder, to reach higher, and to keep trying even when you have setbacks, because there will be setbacks in creative thinking.